Welcome to Seizing Valor, where we discover God's path for manhood, one conversation at a time. I'm Joe.
I'm Zack.
And I'm Josh.
That never gets old.
Sounds like we got a helium leak. That air conditioner's malfunctioning now, apparently.
Somebody pointed out it sounds like Yzma from Prisoner Groove.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oh, when she's the cat. Yeah.
No, even her regular voice.
Once I turn back into my beautiful self, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. That's the one.
Except that was probably a terrible rendition on my part. But sorry, everyone, I don't have the special effects aid.
It does the job. So the real
Here
question,
we are, gentlemen.
Our subject is today. How does a boy become a man?
Well, Joe.
Loaded question.
This 12 years old. No.
Well, I think it's time for the talk.
He's able to find
and it's gonna be a long talk. All right. So anyway, everyone, while we with the whole malfunction.
Wait. Oh no, wait. Sorry, wrong one. This is going great.
There we go. Yeah.
Gotta embrace the awkward.
How about that airline food?
Boo.
Look who's
I need
laughing at me now.
like an angry crowd noise.
And that was Josh's regular laugh.
Yeah.
Nothing strange here.
Sorry.
You need the high voice for that one.
Something in my throat. Oh yeah, let me try that.
Even the low one might be good.
Try the low one. I can't even hear that. But
Yeah, sound like you were vomiting. Oh, I was vomiting. All right, this is the best opener we've had yet.
So, anyway,
let's go to more
our topic
important.
for today. We are going to be talking about the ever important transition from boyhood to manhood.
How much of a segue
from the
was
perspective of a boy, and also from the perspective of a father.
My boy.
Yeah. We'll expand on that more once we get past the banter, if that ever happens. So, gentlemen, now that we're kind of back on track, how was our week?
Okay, it was good. Pretty chill. This was a kind of a chill week. And what day is today? Today's Tuesday.
By the time we're filming it, yeah.
I've been doing a lot of home stuff, working on school and production and all that goodness. And this class that I'm doing the first week was pretty good, actually. It wasn't too bad. It's all about communication and like marketing and branding and stuff like that, which is actually pretty helpful to me, turns out, because I don't know anything about marketing. This is good. And then I don't know.
So what are you going to brand yourself as? What are you going to brand? Yeah,
that's good. That's a good question. I'm going to put a big, like a J right here. I'm going to a big J right there. A brand.
You're going to be called Big J?
Big J, big. No. I don't know why I'm looking over here like this. I'm going to get information when I look over here. Oh, actually, yes. I started reading a book, guys. You know that I read? Did you know?
Yeah, I knew you read. What are you reading right now?
I can read, guys.
Can you teach me?
I finally learned. And I'm reading
Dante's Inferno.
Dante's Inferno.
God,
or The
man,
Inferno by
great.
Dante. Yeah.
I have a copy from like 1885. It's awesome.
Oh my goodness, it's good. I am
Wow.
very much enjoying it.
Have you ever played the video game, Josh?
No.
Dante's Inferno.
Dude, I played it with
Inferno?
my roommate Jason. Jason, shout out to you, Zack. So definitely down the hall when I was a sophomore, he was a junior, you were a senior. All kinds of craziness would happen. Val would watch it, Zack, and we would just it's wild.
Is it like a horror game?
It's like God of War, like that type of style of game meets like going down into like the depths, the nine circles.
Do you mean Devil May Cry?
Like Doom?
No, it's a Dante's Inferno game. I'm looking at it right now.
Because Devil May Cry, they use characters from Dante's Inferno. But that's great.
It's so great. The actual book, I believe, is better, but both have their merit.
Yeah, I'm
I would
pleasantly
hope
surprised.
so.
I didn't realize it was written in like a verse format. It's like like poems, like
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
it's like- it
love
was
that.
the-
I think that's so cool. So I just
Beatrice.
started. I'm only in like I don't know, 20 some pages in, and I'm very impressed.
Do you
Oh,
read it to
monster.
your children for a nighttime story?
Mm.
Yeah. And as the screams and wails reached reached my ears, I passed out.
Beatrice.
I'm enjoying it though.
Peaceful night's sleep after that one.
Yeah, I kind of like a little darker reads. Like that's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm realizing. But
Yeah,
because
I'm.
it's
Did
good,
you know that, Josh? Like, I assume like you can read, like you say you were reading this book. I'm also
Yeah.
very well read.
Well read.
Well,
Well read.
nice. That's I.
Too bad you're not better spoken.
Yeah, I'm gonna applaud you for that. Excellente grammars.
That joke was very
boy.
Raven, but my other past jokes have not been very Raven.
But glad you're glad you're enjoying the book, Josh.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I really recommend it for some people because I think there's a lot that you can take from it. There's a lot of allegory and in our own human experience because that's the whole concept of the book, right? Is all
Yeah.
that. But yeah. So even the first
Yeah.
couple of pages, it's just wow. It's very very powerful. You have to be in a certain mindset, I think, to read it. So don't read it if you're feeling sensitive and upset about the world or how you are. But
Yeah.
been
It's
great
very
so
much
far.
one of those like warning books, like right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like this is
A
what can
trigger
happen.
warning. Yeah.
This is like the and there's a place for those types of books in the world of like this is like the consequences of bad. Like so like if you continue down bad path, like you know, this is what happens. Like cautionary tales versus the like this is what you should do and good stuff will happen. Or like, you know, there's room for both. You know, you
It's
have
kind
to
of like
balance out both.
it's in a similar vein to like the screw tape letters, how it's like the other, you know, the other side, like, but
yeah,
it's been good. Yeah, like chill stuff, watching the kids, doing schoolwork, production things, reading books. Good.
How's the song?
Good. Yeah, I'm messing with it a little bit more today. I'm kind of slowly piecing it here and there when I can, in between all the
commit
other
tax
projects
fraud?
that I'm doing.
Yeah, commit tax fraud. You don't actually have to call it that.
No. But yeah, we'll be done soon.
We'll just call it CTF.
Probably either this week or next week. I have to do a couple different errands and stuff this week, so I don't know if I'll get to
Got
it.
some lyrics.
You got lyrics?
No, do you? I thought you did.
Oh, no, not yet.
Ooh, maybe I should be in charge of the lyrics.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, I had quite an eventful weekend. Friday I had a wedding, but the thing was I drove to Virginia's wedding. You know Virginia, Zach?
Yeah, Virginia's wedding in Pennsylvania. Virginia, who lives in Virginia, but was getting married in Pennsylvania.
Who got married in Pennsylvania.
Who just got married in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And the husband's name is California.
Don't worry, we'll put an equation in the show.
The husband's name is California.
So follow that.
From Montana.
From Montana.
His parents' name, the last names.
But parents live in Idaho.
Nice.
Yeah, so I went to the wedding, but the way down, if from my apartment right here, it would have been like 3.5 hours or something like that. But I decided to go to my parents' place to just drop off some stuff, you know, laundry and stuff like that, dress the suit up. And I thought, oh, great, I would have only had like a 2-hour drive. Easy. Turns out I took myself a longer route to get to the wedding venue, and I only had like 5 minutes until the ceremony started. So everything worked out fine, but it was just so super stressful. And had I gotten into traffic, I would have been in deep crap. So then the wedding was great, whatever. I drove back at night, got back to my parents' house at like 2. That sucked. Then we had like a huge family gathering of like 15, 16 people. And I thought I was going to leave in like the afternoon on that Saturday, but like everything was like thrust upon us. I'm like, where did this come from? Seriously, like it happened like spur of the moment. So much stimulation because there was probably like 6, 7, 8 kids. so much screaming. Oh my goodness. I still hear the screams. Yeah.
A taste of my existence.
Yeah. So that was fun. Drove back. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was like 9:30, and I'm like, I haven't had a time to myself at all yet. Then I played worship team, practice, whatever. But then I edited the podcast episode, still had no time to myself. And then lastly, on yesterday, I went to Rhode Island to meet with some friends and family. Actually, no, mostly just family, which was great. But I still had not too much time for myself. Needed to process that whole entire weekend partially with family. Man, like when you don't have like a time to yourself, it's like draining, you know?
I feel like I've been more craving that recently, though. I feel like I've had too much time to myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need.
Yeah, I
other
mentioned
people 'cause
last
I'm
week
like-
that we had like such polar opposites.
Yeah,
It's good
I've
that
been
I'm here
like-
because that's how I feel too.
yeah. But yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like I'm like, there's not enough people. It's COVID, and then all this stuff, and then it's like now I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I just too much time for me to process and think is. Nope.
Yeah,
Not
too
that
much
I avoid it
stimulation.
because I like it, but like you start overthinking and all that stuff. Then so.
But to top it all off, I had some really great news. I actually found, like, at my apartment complex, some people just leave like random furniture or random like books or movies. Somebody left an AMC Theaters ticket, like a stubs, so I could go to a free movie if I wanted to.
Cool job.
All right.
Hi, Zach.
So this week for me is very busy because I'm getting ready to go. I'm getting ready to head down to Harrisburg. I found myself a place. I'm packing up all my stuff. It's going to be a kind of a multi-day move, but like my first, like the biggest portion in the start is tomorrow, actually. So I'm getting ready to head out to my own place. So I'm like super excited. It's been very stressful because it's been kind of like I've never had to get everything all situated in like 3 weeks before. This has been like the fastest move I've ever had to do. So a lot of stuff is happening at the very last minute with like leases and deposits and all that stuff. But yeah, it's been a little chaotic, but once again, I'm really excited. It's been my first kind of time living on my own. For those listening, I lived with a roommate post college for the because he's my best friend, and because the financial savings, and because we both were working startup jobs and we wanted to make sure we could afford the rent. So I lived with a roommate for a really long time, and so this will be my first time living on my own. No parents, no roommates, just me and my own bachelor pad. Or just a pad. I mean, either way.
It's scary.
So I'm like
great.
really excited. It is one of those moments of like stepping on your own. It's one of those moments where it's definitely like scary, but also exciting at the same time. Of like, I am now going to be shaping my next step of my life, and I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty
Tell
excited.
us about the apartment and where it's at. I mean,
I'm not going to tell you where it's at, but I'll tell you about it a little bit.
But show like what the surrounding area.
Yeah, the address, the numbers, the streets.
Yeah, exactly. I'll send my whole mailing address. I'll send it. I'll put it out there.
Throw your PIN number.
I haven't met anybody yet. I mean, so it's in kind of like a community area. It's like a kind of an apartment community. So it's not like a private lease, like with just an individual person. It's like with a company and like in a community area.
Nice.
So it's a second floor apartment, which is great. There's no one above me. And I have a nice patio balcony, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty basic. I mean, I've got a pretty solid size, like living room, kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom. And I mean, it's, I don't know, it's somewhere around like 800 square feet or something like that, which is not bad. Like I'm pretty happy with it. Hopefully all my furniture fits. You never know how much stuff you have until you move out and move in places. So
got that IKEA stuff?
Well, we had that. Well, no, I don't need it. Well, first of all, we don't really have IKEA around where I am. The closest IKEA is in Philadelphia, and that is very far away. But so we don't really have IKEA. But I have lots of family furniture of like, the aunt gave this, the parents gave that, the grandparents gave that. So like I have a lot of that stuff. but yeah, so I'm like kind of excited for the idea of once again living on my own. It's like different when you live by yourself because you can kind of customize the whole apartment to you,
Yeah.
which is like when you live with a roommate, it's like your room is yours, but like the rest has to be kind of like neutralized for everybody type of
Yeah,
deal.
hanging up the
So
pictures and the furniture and shaping it the way you
yeah.
want. That's the fun part.
Yeah, that's like yeah, and I'm not looking forward to having to go up steps every day but it'll be nice to have a balcony though. So I
Yeah.
like that idea. And
Totally.
yeah, and I have to like get paper, and the rest has been like getting paperwork in for work so I start on Monday, so I'm super excited about it. So the day this podcast comes out, everybody listening, I will be starting the first day of my job. So pray for me if you are listening that I do a pretty solid job. I'm pretty stoked. So I had to do all that stuff, and just taking care of a lot of little things, just getting ready for that move, getting ready for that launch into the next step of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Excellent.
speaking of I mentioned the podcast that we listen to and our topic for this week. So let's dive right in. So Josh, so you were the one who suggested that we listen to this podcast. So why don't you give us a little description and intro here?
Yeah. So basically, this podcast was released by one called Art of Manliness, which I'm a big fan of. So if you ever want to check them out, it's actually pertinent for everybody. Just like how this podcast is, even though we kind of say it's for men, but really anybody can listen to it. And this one really struck me because it was this guy who just really stressed and talked about the importance of having like a what's the word, rite of passage for his son to become a man, and like that was a really important thing in his parenting and how he wanted his son to to have a rite of passage. And so I forget how many years it was. It was like 3 or 4 years. He like started it when he was 6 years. That's right. Sorry, 6 years.
13 to 19.
13 to 19. That's right. Yeah. So when he was 13 years old, he kind of laid out this path where he wanted to do and this really like ceremonious kind of thing of having his son know that now you're a man, and to like kind of go from there, because obviously in our culture that's kind of disappeared for us as men. We never really know the moment that we become a man. Obviously there's biological things, but like for like when the moment that we become a man. And so it's just this cool concept, and I want to hear what you guys thought about.
Well,
Maybe
I think the first.
Well, here let's break it down a little bit. So let's talk about that last part first, and this idea of like knowing when you're a man, or the struggles with knowing when you're a man, and like we can maybe talk about that a little bit before we dive into the podcast or dive into the material. So like, what are you guys' experiences kind of with that personally, and also kind of what you see in the culture, this idea of like, when does a boy know he's a man? And like, because they talk about it in the thing like that in the podcast, that historically in cultures there's been like these rites of passage that young men are sent on like missions or journeys, or even in a more rudimentary sense, there's like these days in certain religions there's like ceremonies like maybe like something like a bar mitzvah. I'm not Jewish, so I can't really like speak to like exactly what it is and like what is but the idea of like stepping into like that transition to adulthood. So anyway, so what are you guys' experiences and feelings about that, like for yourself and in our culture?
Well, first off, I think it goes without saying that there are definitely different definitions of what a true man is when somebody reaches full maturity. People might think when you're 18, 21, drinking age for one thing, maybe the ability to drive, maybe when you first get married or first job, first house, first apartment, something that, finally financially free from your parents. So everybody's got a different definition, but the term man, like it's been diluted so much that I'm sure that a lot of young men today don't even know exactly how to answer that question.
Right.
Yeah. And just kind of just like stepping from, and this is not even like what constitutes being male. It's like when do I go from a child male to an adult male? Like,
right.
Yeah.
So what were you gonna say, Josh?
So I was just gonna say, just kind of in my own personal experience, like when I had a kid, like that was kind of the moment for me that like I became a man. And that's kind of just in my own experiences. Like that's definitely the moment when just holding my firstborn child and looking into his eyes, and as he was gazing back into me, like I just felt something change within me.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I just knew like now my life is completely like
Devoted.
devoted, and this life is completely dependent upon me, and it's my job now. Now I'm a dad, now I'm a father, and at that moment, like it just shifted within me that like I'm a man now. Like, and so that was kind of my own experience. Was like now like solely responsible for someone's livelihood. Now, obviously, when you get married, it's a similar concept, but like their life isn't dependent upon you. Now my life is dependent, like their life is dependent upon me and my sacrifices and my love for them. So it was that moment that I kind of experienced that. I know I'm kind of shifting our discussion, but
so from my perspective, I guess I wanted to touch kind of on three things. So one, I guess, is I like how the podcast, first of all, like not diving into the content yet, but like this idea, the idea of this rite of passage of like having that known moment. I guess a lot of people don't realize how important that is, about how like clarity is important. And sometimes clarity, and I think in our culture, is kind of like disappearing, like this specificity, this clarity. Like even once again, you look at people in relationships, no one's like, or like courting each other, trying to woo people. Like, you know, this idea is like, just be upfront with them. Like, I like you, can you ask me? Or like, I don't like you, like that. Like, you know, everyone's just playing the runaround, and like, so no one ever knows what to do because there's no like surety. It's like you don't really know how to act. Like if someone's like doesn't really, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but like for example, if someone really doesn't like you, but they kind of just like kind of hint or vaguely like kind of give off like vague signals that like I don't like you, but like never clearly are just like that's not like I don't like you. Like once again, you don't know how to act because you like once again without that surety, it's really difficult to know how to act. Like is like, but if you're like you're told and it's like boom, that's the truth, there it is, but like there's the moment, like you know how to act better. Like versus the vagueness, and I feel like I'm not being specific about this need for specificity. But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like this idea is like knowing, having this like clear either information, or in this case, like having this clear like point in time, like kind of gives you more information on how to act properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this idea in our culture, like I like this idea of this rite of passage gives you like a clear identifying marker of like I was a boy, now I'm a man. Whereas I feel like now there's just so much vagueness and like when, like without being told like when you're a man, then all of a sudden there's this big abyss of like I don't know when I'm a man, and like I don't know how to act. Like I don't know whether I'm supposed to be acting like a man or supposed to be acting like a child. Some people become men like in their teens. Some people delay becoming men for the rest of their lives. Like, you know, this idea is that there's no surety. So like I guess what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout way is this like this point, this specific point gives us more information on how like we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to think, how we're supposed to move on. Whereas vagueness like really like eats away at us because we really don't know, like that lack of surety of like walking through this abyss of not really knowing causes a lot of stress.
That rite of passage is it's crucial to that clarity of what the rite of passage is, because I'm sure depending on the family it is different. Like what was it back in prehistoric times? You know, you hunt the woolly mammoth or the mastodon, and then with dad, with the tribe, and then you essentially are a man at that point in time. So your first outing. But what's similar to that? Nothing. I don't know.
Well, this kind of leads into my second point, actually. So they talk about this in the podcast, is the idea now, since there is no, like in our majority of our cultures, like there's not that set point that young men, like once again, we're just talking about men here. Everyone, obviously there's a different struggle for women that we can't really speak to because we're not women, but we're just talking about men here. They take it upon themselves to kind of create their own like step into manhood, so that like, but that can take a lot of negative forms. Like, you know, people think that when I go out and get, like, when I drink for the first time and get like blasted drunk, like I'm a man, or like when I have sex for the first time, now I'm a man, or like when I, you know, people join gangs and things like that to like kind of prove that they're a man, like, you know, to have this indoctrination, like, so you see what I'm saying? It's like a lot of men without like a clear defined, like, this is like the moment you become a man, this is what you're preparing to, that they try to fill it in with their own stuff, and a lot of the time that it's not good stuff. So, and because they don't know, because first of all, our culture doesn't do a good job saying like this is what constitutes becoming like an adult male. You know, so like once again, stuff like, you know, sleeping around, like, or, you know, drinking a lot, or like, or excessive drink, like binge drinking or something like that, like those types of things become now your rite of initiation for yourself, and that obviously is not like that isn't what makes you a man, or that isn't what makes you an adult, and that can, you know, lead to some other consequences. So thoughts on that?
I didn't think about it that way, that, you know, other people's rite of passage would be these certain other, what we would think, us three, these trivial things of drinking for the first time or having sex for the first time. That is your rite of passage, but it's what they make of it because of the fact that you don't have any guidance. But it's a product of our culture, you know, prizing youthfulness, youth, and then just general disdain for a lot of the responsibilities that our elders really put in place.
Yeah, because we definitely hold on to these things much longer, you know, and as a result, because of that the fear of discomfort, the fear of having responsibility, the fear of doing things that are hard and difficult and considered manly, you know, like whatever it may be, is not as, you know, it's not as desirable. So we kind of hang on to the stuff that we've done our whole lives as a result, and then there's that kind that we don't really get that. But if we had that moment where it's like, now I'm a man, like I'm gonna cast this stuff aside and I'll pick up the, you know, the clothing of manliness or whatever, and then move on forward, like, then that would change all of that, you know, 100%.
Yeah.
I heard this awesome talk once, and it was all talking about that, like, and there's this line that really stuck with me, that in this talk, that was like, if you're doing the same things you were doing when you were 12, like, you really have to think about that. Like, you really have to like reflect on the decisions that you're making in like the moment. Like, are you being a man if you're doing the same things you were doing when you were 12 years old?
Yeah.
And that like stuck with me.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. It's like, how true is that?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of us men, like, what do? Like, we play video games, you know, we eat poorly, we, you know, we don't maybe not exercise as well. Maybe we're playing sports, or we're pretending we're playing sports, or like whatever it is, and we're kind of stuck in this world. We're still going to school, we're still, you know, not having good relationships with women, we're having difficulty with friends, and it's all the same, you know. And if you're living the same way in your 20s, you know, mid to late 20s, and doing the same stuff you did when you were 12, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. This idea that there is a transition point, that there is a time when, like, you know, even in the Bible, what does it say? I think Paul says, like, when I was a child, I acted like a child, talked like a child. And then when I became a man, you know, I acted like a man.
Put the childish stuff aside.
Yes.
And take on your
change.
own, whatever it is, your robe of manliness. I don't know. Something like that. Like a line like with that. But
yeah.
But yeah, so that I think that's why it's, you know, when we're seeing the results of that, like, that's kind of the after effect of not having these, you know, moments, these ceremonies, this rite of passage in our culture. It's just creating kind of emasculated man children.
Or like, once again, people doing risky things, or like to prove they're a man, because I think that proves that for a lot of people there is a desire for this, like this rite of initiation, this moment of knowing, like this, like, I am now a man, like they want that moment, they want that, or that process, they want to know, like, so, so I think the desire is there in our culture. I just don't
but yeah, I guess they just don't know what it means to even be a man to begin with, you know. Because it is blurry nowadays.
So
This is a tough topic.
So yeah. Well, I was going to say my third point was just more my own personal experience, which we'll elaborate more as like we kind of go through this, but like how I actually find myself struggling with this a little bit right now is like I don't feel like I had a moment like where I'm like I am a man now. Like I really don't feel like I had that one particular time, and I feel like actually for the past few years like I've been struggling back and like I don't feel like a child like, but I feel like I'm sometimes a little bit in that half and half, like, you know, I'm like 1 foot here 1 foot here, and like I'm not really like sometimes I really feel like an adult like and then like a man, and then sometimes I feel like a child, and like so I'm like I really and thinking I didn't a lot of the thing I liked about this podcast is to put a lot of things in perspective for me, because I was like I was feeling and thinking a lot of what it talked about, but I didn't know how to process it, and I'm like oh, this is actually what I'm feeling, this is what I'm struggling with right now. So and this is like, and it's not blaming anyone or anything like that, it's just like with my own personal journey, you know, I've made some mistakes in terms of like haven't taken certain steps when I probably should have, or like drug my feet taking certain steps, or maybe once again struggle to figure out what it means to be an adult man. And not that I have done some things that like, you know, I really felt like an adult, like when you start living away from home on your own, being financially independent, as Joe talked about. And like this next big step, I'm trying to make like a really big, like adult man step, like living on my own type of thing. And I'm trying to see it like that. But this idea is that I have been struggling a little bit. I've been very frustrated in a lot of areas of my life, and I couldn't understand why. And I think this podcast actually answered a lot of what I was feeling of, once again, wanting to gain that independence and, you know, like that self-responsibility and, yeah. And like kind of letting go of childhood a little bit, not like letting go as in like we forget about it or like we never, you know, or have fun or anything like that. But, you know, this idea of like taking that step into, you know, being an adult. And I'll be able to probably articulate more what I mean as we kind of break this down as we kind of go along here. But yeah, so anyway, just that's my personal experience, is that I really took this to heart, and I feel like I think, you know, these next, you know, few months and years, I'm like going to be really now that I'm stepping off on my own, I'm really going to be trying to make this like a big transition to like, this is me stepping into, you know, further into adulthood. So
and I think
anyway,
the majority of men out there would agree and feel a similar thing. You know? That's why this is so important, which I think is so good that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
I remember. Go
ahead, Joe.
I remember about 3 years ago, I was talking to my brother-in-law and my sister. We were all on a walk, and I just told them after they questioned me about, like, you know, what I wanted, different parts of my future in different areas. I said, you know, sometimes I just feel like I'm waiting for my life to start. You know, it was my previous job that I was at, where I was basically living like in a boarding school-esque thing. I won't go to further detail, but it was I wasn't exactly living for myself. Granted, it was a first job. It was awesome, living and paying for myself, still utilizing a lot of the stuff that my parents had given me. But at the same time, like I wasn't happy in a lot of areas, poor relationship too, kind of just for the sake of doing it. Like, oh, this is what people do. Yeah, and not exactly living for what I had known God wanted me to be. And we all encounter like different wavelengths of that as we go, sometimes periods of waiting, which that was. But finally becoming, like, for one thing, financially independent, and a lot of times paying for those big boy things, which I hadn't at the time. That's one thing that's just plays one aspect into adult maturity, for one thing. You know, economic maturity. There's a bunch of other ones like the spiritual maturity, but I will go more into that later. That was just that one statement. I'm just waiting for my life to start. That was something that stuck with me at that moment in time. felt like a whole different person than I do right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, that happens. That happens. I have a little idea. I want to push back a little bit on this concept. Do you think that we as a culture put a little bit too much on the concept of financial independence and like with men, with masculinity?
How do you mean?
I think that's I think there's two sides to that. Like I can see this pressure. I can see the negative pressure of idea of like never accept help. That like that's bad. Like this idea of you do need to be humble and accept help when you need it. Like I think that is important. But I also think like then there's the other extreme of like you do have to be able to make your own living, or like you and your spouse or you by yourself or whatever, like you as your family unit, whether that's one person or a lot of people, I think do need to have some level of independence to like take care of yourself and to like, that not necessarily, I don't want to make it sound too negative. You don't want to be a burden on some people, because I do know some people who are like that, like who are just they can't take care of themselves. And it's not because they have like a disability or anything, but like they just can't do it. And it causes stress for a lot of people around them. So there's a difference between accepting help when it's offered and you need it, and then like just like the expectation is that like someone's going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying that not as like a pushing back or to disagree with that concept, because obviously I think financial independence is really important. But I almost wonder if that's like if we put a little bit too much in that camp, like a
with
man,
what it means to be a
what
man.
it means to be a man. Like, are you financially independent? Well, therefore you're a man. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, are you serving? Are you loving? Are you instilling knowledge? Are you creating? Are you cultivating?
Yeah, that's one thing.
Well,
Putting a lot of worldly emphasis on
that's what
your
I mean,
worth on the worldly things, such as paying for certain things, certain items.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so this is the way I look at it, at least when it comes to like my parents. I want to go from my parents taking care of me to me being able to take care of my parents.
Definitely.
Like that should be the goal, is that you should be able to take care of your parents by like the end. Like it almost is like rewarding them too, of like they took care of you for so long, you not return the favor like you owe a debt, like, but like because you return the love by taking care of your parents one day. Yes.
That's
honoring what they did for you.
That's what I was looking for.
But our culture never really says that,
because
a lot of people
says you need to get your job so that you have your money so that you can buy your things and like so that you can.
But really, like what's the underlying thing is that you're
ultimately
becoming a slave to the man.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to using it for serving and loving and giving and as opposed to
that's really
buying things that are just gonna disappear when you die.
I think like kind of in that light, so kind of clarifying what the point I think we're making is, I think what makes and constitutes manliness as financial independence isn't this ability to like do whatever you want, buy whatever you want, but getting to that transition where being financially dependent on others to allowing others to be financially dependent on you. Like, so that it's going from being helped to helping. Like that's kind of like, you want to be financially independent so that you can support other people, because if you're constantly struggling, like you can't support someone else, you can't help someone else. Like if you're constantly like struggling financially, like you want to be able to become financially independent so you are more greatly able to serve like your family or your like your parents or other people around you, like the poor in your community, things like that, like other people in your community, your church. Like you want to be able to become financially independent for that reason, I think, and not as much like, hey, look at me, I can do whatever I want type of deal, which I think is what our culture tries to say, is that it's like you need to be able to do whatever you want.
That's really awesome. So basically you're being built up in order to build up others. Yeah. I actually wrote down in my notes a whole bunch of stuff. It is this type of maturity in order to do this for other people. That's exactly what I wrote. So I'm glad that we're on the same page. I'll go over that list another time, but somebody else go.
All right. Well, maybe we should dive into the podcast, or Zach, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was going to reorient us to like kind of breaking this down a little bit.
Yeah, please do. So I haven't listened to it in a long time. So
Okay,
have
oh,
you
I
guys
just listened to
break
it,
it
so
down. Yeah,
I'm a little fresh.
not fresh.
So okay, so as Josh kind of talked about at the beginning, I don't remember what the man's name is. I know he's from Australia. I remember that part. But he wanted to create a rite of passage for his son. So essentially speaking, when his son was born, he actually started coming up with this thing. So that by the time he was 13, he's going through puberty, starting to become a man, he would start this journey. So we talked about this idea of rite of passage as like a moment, but this actually, he wanted it to be an experience. There is a moment, like at the end, like the going from boyhood to adulthood, but like the 6 years in between is the preparation, which I think a lot of people forget is necessary. Like you need preparation in order to cross that threshold. So 13 to 19, I think he essentially talked about how he like picked a date on a time, like at the end, and then kind of worked backwards, and he like just came up with all these things that he wanted his son to know, all these skills he wanted him to learn, all this knowledge he wanted him to have, all these people he wanted him to meet, things he wanted him to do, and just kind of broke that down so that over 6 years, like, so at the end when he finally has that graduation almost type thing, even that's probably not really a good word for it, that he, you know, was able to step into this manhood and know he could handle the world and he could handle anything. But maybe let's start at the beginning. So I find it very interesting that the whole thing actually starts with the boy and his mom. Like the boy and his mom. It starts with I don't remember what the word is in the original, like where he got this concept from. He like read books and got concepts from. It was called a severance ceremony almost, but like they kind of they used a different word. It ended up being something like de-emphasis or something, a de-emphasization ceremony or something like that. This idea that so it starts with the boy with his mother and having this dinner, so that like almost as a marker, as this from here on, you will be mostly being formed by your father. Like you like because your mother takes care of you up until while you're a boy, right, until like 13, predominantly because she's nurturing you, she's caring for you, she's making sure you stay alive, and like, you know. But then from 13, as you become a man, your dad's going to be the one shaping you then to become a man and to become and to know how to be in the world. Not that the mom's not there, the mom's totally there and the mom's totally doing things, but like it's just that the relationship for both is changing. Like your relationship with your dad is changing, your relationship with your mom is changing. And they break it down as to how because, and this is hit me so hard because I know it's true, because we as men or boys, we always go back to mom when we want to go back to childhood. Like, you know, when we want to run back to childhood or what it's like when we were a child, we go to mom. And that at least speaking for myself and myself only, once again, I'm not going to speak for everyone listening to this podcast, but I know I'll speak for me, and that is totally true. Like it's 100% true. That mom kind of represents that early part, that childhood part, and you know, sometimes dad represents that more mature, that next stage of life. And I do feel like my relationship with my parents has changed as I've gotten older, like in that way. But anyway, I want to get you guys' thoughts on that, on the original thing with mom and the changing relationships.
I love this point. I love this point. Love it. Because I think, I don't want to be charitable here. I think that oftentimes we as men can, you should always love your mom. You should always respect your mom. You should always be there for her. You should take care of her when she's older. She should be there for you when you need her, right? But I think oftentimes we put a little too much in the mom camp, or maybe the mom puts a little bit too much on us. You know what I mean? As we get, especially as we get older, and you know, in this world of helicopter parenting that we're in today, where mom's got to do everything, mom's got to take care. I got to make sure they're safe. I got to make sure they're protected. I got to be there, as opposed to letting them live, letting them kind of experience, to grow, to, you know, encounter these
Let
things.
them struggle.
Yeah, to struggle, to then get stronger, and to get discomfort so they get more comfort. Like, and so I when I heard that, I was like, yes. I just think that's such an important point in our culture today. Is that when you become of age, like it's time to become especially as you're preparing for manhood, you got to be around men. You know, you got to be around men, because the reality is, like, a lot of us, for the majority of our lives, we're surrounded by women. So dad's working, and you know, in a general sense, sometimes mom's at home, and so we see her when we're home. We go to school. Our teachers, for the most part, tend to be women. So you're kind of surrounded by women at school, and then that's kind of it. and that's what you experience. That's like part of your upbringing for the majority of your life is through women, and so I think it's important for us to be, in our formative years, to have men to help us become good men, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's my soapbox. Hopefully, I didn't say anything too offensive.
Yeah, you need a balance of the two. I think in those child years, basically up until the age of 12, a boy needs his mother. He
Absolutely.
he truly does. But then when those years that come creeping up on us, basically 13 up until college, like basically when you are becoming a little bit more there cognitively, basically up until like you're 25 as well. That's when you're fully developed a frontal lobe. I'm talking about. You need those moments with men, and particularly your father too, in order to hopefully excel at some trade maybe that they can teach you, generally speaking.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
as we were talking, like as you're saying, it's not necessarily. I don't like the word severance because it's like it implies that it's like you have no more relationship with your mother. It's more like a transformation. It's like you're almost, as I talked about before. Even though at 13 you're not going to get to this point, is like you're going from a boy that was being taken care of by your mother to a man that can take care of your mother. That you are becoming that type of man, and also to take care of someone else. Like to take care of, like if you were called to marriage, to take care of another woman, like your dad takes care of your mom. And yeah, I think that's just so important. And like he talked about how like his wife was in on this too. Like his wife in this moment had to start to like vow to be like, when you start struggling, like I'm going to send in like particular areas, like, I'm going to send you to your father. Like I am going to, I have to be able to watch you struggle, but then also send you to your father to like, for this type of formation like that. And as you said, Josh, like, and this is not any mom that might be listening. First of all, I love you, Mom, my own mother. I love you so very much. And I'm so thankful for everything that you do for me and have done for me. But this idea is that moms just, they want to take care of you. And that's not a bad thing. It's what they're supposed to do. That's like their call. That's their vocation. And it's hard. It's hard for them to not want to resist that urge. It is. And thank you, moms, for everything you do. And you are strong women for what you do in the home. But yeah, there's this needs, there is, and it also equally points out, I'm glad he started this way too, because he like points out that the moms and the dads are important, like in both stages of your life, but like their roles change, like as you go, like what they're doing, and who's like, not, I don't want to say like predominant, but like, this idea is that both are very important, and that both like a mom and a dad are very important, for the nurturing of kids. Not knocking anybody that, has a single parent or anything like that. But yeah, that this idea is this teamwork, effort is really important. Yeah,
Big time. Yeah, I love it.
So Josh, you also, transitioning, you mentioned, well, kind of going into this middle stage. So after that, part of it is you talked about how surrounding yourself with men, like with other men. So like this was kind of a point that he made too, is getting male role models like outside of the dad, outside of himself, to help raise his son and help to teach his son lessons. And I think that is so important, because you need your dad, but you also need more than your dad. Your dad can't be the only man in your life, because your dad doesn't know everything. And how often do any of us listen to our dad? All the time.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly,
so I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, like this village of men idea.
Yeah,
I think you have to have it in different trades, different areas of your life. You cannot just like be in one area, which ultimately is something that I dealt with. I was made because I was a competitive swimmer. You know me, Zach. I really only did that when home. I should have diversified more often. I mean, I had guitar too when having guitar lessons. I suppose I shouldn't really just say I was in one area. But try to, my best advice to anybody listening right now is just go to as many places as you can, devote to as many trades as you can, depending on your interests. and involve yourself with as many men as you can, many groups as you can, boys and men.
Yeah,
Josh,
but
what were you
I
gonna say?
think I think it's important just because you'll see, oh, other people, they feel this way other than my dad, and then those lessons and the education and the knowledge kind of sits in more. Because oftentimes that's so true. Like every now and then we'll ignore, what our parents will say sometimes just because they're our parents and whatever. But when another outside figure, like someone, especially if it's a man that you like deeply respect, it's not saying you don't respect your parents when you should, but it's like says something and it's kind of seconds what your dad is saying, you can kind of wake up to that reality, be like, oh, like this is an important thing. I'm seeing it. It's kind of I'm setting in with it.
It's part of the
through,
worldview.
through that example, and then now I can see a little bit clearer. And so I think that's really important to have a group of individuals who are seasoned, who are good, who have learned, lived experience to then kind of share their knowledge, education, and just livelihood with. Like it is important to have that because we honestly don't have that much anymore. I would think, but
I want to go
outside of school and coaches and the obvious places, but
I do want to go back to that rite of passage thing because obviously there are different types of rites of passage. And I was actually looking at Art of Manliness before this. A lot of the rites of passages around the world throughout history, they're just seemingly physical, and a lot of them are just forms of torture from what we can see. Like one example, I love this example just because I've seen like a bunch of different people react to this. Like in the Brazilian Amazon, you have one tribe that had a makeshift glove of things called bullet ants. Like the bullet ant challenge where somebody gets like stung by a bullet ant. It's like the most painful sting in the ant world. It's like throbbing pain for like 24 hours, like searing hot feeling. But you have to hold your hand in that glove for 10 minutes without making a single noise. And that's like your rite of passage as a man. If that's painful, like imagine like 10 pissed off bullet ants. But like a lot of them, men,
or they spend a night in the woods and then they have to come back in the morning, or whatever it is.
With some animal. But men, like, they need a mountaintop. Like, I know for one thing, if you spent your time walking through a desert and you didn't have some type of landmark that you were aiming towards, you would just be wandering the desert and would actually be wandering in circles. That's what would happen. You wouldn't just be walking into a straight line because you need a landmark to be actually looking towards and walking towards. Everybody needs a mountaintop to be going against. I think that's one thing I'd like to talk about with becoming a man too. You got to have your goals.
Yeah, it's important to have the goals and all that. Guys, should we have this be 2 episodes?
Maybe we should.
Because I think this is a big topic, I really do want to kind of dissect all of this,
Yes.
Yeah. Because I feel we only really just got into the actual podcast.
We're already in an hour.
Yeah. So maybe we can come back to this and we can explore it a little bit more. Because I did want to dive into a little bit more about those relationships because he talks a lot about how he like got people specifically from like the area of life he was going into. Like, so when he was about to enter high school, he had like a high school senior come and talk to him. That was a guy. So like preparing him, like fresh set of eyes, and like this is what it's going to be like, and this is. So I don't know. I really liked that part. I really liked so much about this. I really like. I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, man, should I save up my vacation days and go on the Camino? Like, type of deal. Or maybe even at least the Appalachian Trail. But
well, for me, it just really inspired me to do this with Eli and with John eventually, and I'm thinking about that and how I want to walk about this. And I showed it to Claire, and she's kind of on board. So I think it's a good thing, and I'm excited about it because it's important. It's so important. It's so important for us to realize now you're a man. Like, have your father look at you in the face and say, you're a man now. And so now you got to put the old ways aside, and you got to serve and love and know and cultivate and create and be and lead and all this stuff. To know that is so lacking. But
he talks about even then, like in the Bible, where it's like the baptism of Jesus, where his father, as he comes out and says like, "You are my son, and with you I am well
I'm well
pleased."
Mhm.
Yeah. So like this idea is like, you're ready, man. Go for it.
Yeah.
And like that's, oh man. And then
That's
as you
it.
mentioned,
Go.
Josh, like talking about, go out
Yeah.
into the world.
Go.
You can handle
Mission.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've
Yeah.
struggled a lot, and now you're ready. Like you're ready to handle whatever comes at you. And that's,
And that doesn't have, we don't
I
have that
agree.
anymore. You know, we
No.
don't have that.
Yeah.
People don't like, it's never like a, like go live, like go. It's never like that. And
Yeah.
it's just such a shame because there's always like a little bit of an umbilical cord left. You know what I mean? Where there's
Mhm.
always like a little bit, which is fine in the culture that we live in, because it is getting harder and harder. And but still, it's like, man, like we just need, like, if people were just on their own, they would really grow, I think, as people.
Yeah.
Not to say you don't cut it off, you don't burn bridges. You know, if you are struggling, really struggling, obviously they should welcome you back with loving arms. But in the same token, it's like, man, how are you going to grow if you can't be independent, if you can't be on your own, if you can't experience difficulties and struggles? And
It's
Yeah,
all
the
men want to
struggle, I
be.
think, is the
All men
important
want
part.
to be the
Yeah.
hero of their story. They want that hero's journey. And
Yeah.
once you get that rite of passage, that one moment, Luke Vader, the hand gets cut off. No more teacher. Yoda's dead. That's the rite of passage. That is your moment to be the adult in the situation.
That's an interesting analogy. I'm
yeah, it
not
looks a little
sure.
different today,
Everyone, no, I'm
I'm
serious.
not sure if I agree.
No,
but-
I'm not talking about everybody wants their hand to
Ben
get
died
cut
at one
off.
point. It's like, is he a
No,
man
but
now?
but I'm talking about like how how Yoda, he died. There is no more mentor in Luke's life. He has to go face his father. That's the true hero's journey, where he has to let go of being.
This might be a little
boy.
muddled because now this guy's going to try to kill his father. So this might be a little bit of a
Yeah, it's a
muddled
little
situation in
twisted.
the.
But he goes to save him. He
Enough with the Star Wars analogy.
he makes the teaching his own.
Just the hero's journey itself, right? The hero's
Yes.
journey
Yes.
itself. You learn, you're trained by the master, and then you have a trial by fire. You
Yes.
accomplish it, and then you did.
Well,
you
even
made
in
it.
that movie, he has the trial where he goes down into the hole and he has the vision of Vader.
Thank you.
Once again,
Yeah.
there you go. So that's not what you were talking about. That was not the moment.
It
you were
happens in the
referencing.
same moment of the movie. Whatever.
No, it doesn't. You were talking about when Yoda died, which is in the next movie.
But I did say he got his hand cut off too, so it's basically that period.
But what you were
Yeah.
kind of saying, you were referencing with the other rites of passage, like the one portion of truth that's in them. Yes, don't have bullet ants like gnaw your hand off, but like this idea is that a lot of these rites of initiation are there's struggles that if you survive them, you go forward in life thinking, I can do anything. Like
Yeah.
I can survive anything. Like not this. If this did not stop me, like I won't be stopped. Like, obviously we have to put that in a Christian sense. It's like, if I can do this with God, like going forward, then me and God together can do anything. And that's what I like. He incorporated that, like when they go on the Camino at the end, like this thing, that's this difficult thing. It's not a masochistic or sadistic or terrible thing, but like, it's like this challenge. And I think we don't embrace that enough in our world. Like nobody except in sports, I guess, really encourages you to go beyond your limits or like, test yourself, put yourself, and I don't want to say this, and like put yourself in a little risk, maybe not danger, but like do something you're not sure you can do, type of thing. And that's like, but so that when you do it, you're like,
wow,
there's that confidence. So I think that's where the truth lies, and I think that's what we need.
And I think if it's always geared towards the other, right? If it's like seen as like, I'm doing this so I can serve and love, and as opposed to just being like, oh, I can handle this stuff and I'm gonna continue, like, because when you have it kind of shifted inward, it like doesn't serve as well, and it doesn't really go outward. Like, because I think we as men, we're like outward creatures. Like, it's just in our very biologies to be outward and to so yeah, I think as long as it's geared towards like community and through family and through like that kind of concept, it's like, well, now I'm a man, so I have to serve my family. I have to serve my community. I have to serve my workplace, my wife, my kids. Like now I'm at service almost, which oftentimes service isn't always seen as like a masculine trait, but in reality, I mean, it is. Like leadership is service. Like
putting yourself before others is the ultimate thing.
Sacrifice,
Yes.
service, giving, like all of it. And
And that's why, like, the build up, the years, like, it wasn't just that Camino walk at the end that was like the rite of passage. It was like everything that led up to it, which was teaching him how to be a good man and how to serve and how to do all this stuff. That's just as important as the moment. That's actually probably more important than the moment. The moment's just nice because it's like a thing in your brain that logs into your brain that like
release.
Yeah.
bookmark it. And, okay, that's the
Yeah.
moment there. But then to have the growth and the
It wouldn't have worked had it
Don't
not been
have,
for that
man.
buildup.
Oh man, we all
So-
need this. Everyone needs
Yeah.
to hear this, I think.
No, so thank you for sending this, Josh. My gosh, like I got so much out of it, and obviously, like for you, as you were mentioning, it's a twofold thing because now you can obviously see it as in terms of your own life, but then how you will be as a father then to Eli, and that's just so exciting. Like I mean, that's so awesome, and
it really
gosh, it was
is.
just such a good podcast. I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it in the description below, guys. I'm gonna edit this video, so check it out. If you have not heard it, please, if you are a man, and even if you're a woman, like please listen to this podcast. It will literally change.
Oh, like if you're a mom, yeah, like it's important. We
big
talk about the
time.
moms,
for you to understand what
your
men
sons.
need.
Yeah.
So check it out.
Oh, and just so we like mentioned that like he had a daughter too, and like she had like also had a thing that was mostly with her mom, but he like participated in a little bit. So this is not just like a male only thing. So just so everyone knows that there is female equivalent, and like that they briefly mention that, but that obviously was mostly his wife, so like he can't talk everything about it. But just so you know that this isn't like a man's only issue or a man's only point of focus. So anyway, yes. So sorry, I interrupted there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So I was just gonna say, so we're gonna cut it here probably, right? And then we'll continue this discussion next week because I think it's such an important discussion, and
Totally.
even just talking more outly, like how can we achieve this? Like how can we do this for ourselves, even if we've never had this experience? Like how we can kind of cultivate it. I want us to kind of talk through next time, and then also just the rest of the podcast. Just keep chatting about how it was done.
Oh yeah.
All of that goodness and the symbolism. But yeah. So shall we close it out, gentlemen?
Sure, I can do the invite.
Right.
So what we would like you all to do right now is please subscribe to us on YouTube and like this video. Hit the bell icon. It can help out with the algorithm, especially if you look onto our videos fairly quickly on the day of. Also, follow us on Spotify and listen to our episodes on there if you feel compelled to on your car ride, on your morning commute. Also follow us at Seizing Valor on Instagram. We post occasional tidbits that are different from our endeavors on YouTube and Spotify. If you have any questions or prayer intentions, anything that you want to keep private especially, please email us at seizingvalor@gmail.com. In this time, when you need a mountaintop, you need to be surrounded by men. You need to have like some type of community for finding that mountaintop and finding your purpose that God does have for you. And I think in this community, if you're feeling that that lack of certainty in life, hopefully we can be a light for you guys. If you feel compelled to, please subscribe. We'd very much appreciate that.
Yeah. And before we pray, guys, I just want to say thank you for being a male community for me. I mean, I really, just saying, I think this is, this threesome here. I mean, I found a lot of strength as a man from being a part of this. So thank you, guys.
Of course, yeah, likewise. It's a gift.
Yes, it is. Gift I am very thankful for. All right, who wants to pray? Joe, you did the tag, so if not you,
I can pray if you want.
Go for it, Josh. You are the only one of us here that is seeing this topic from both sides, so you go for it.
All right, here we go. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the blessings that you've given all of us. I just pray that you continue to be with us in this moment. That you can fill us with the grace, your love, your Holy Spirit, so that we can discern what it means to be a man and what is a man today. Thank you for the gift of masculinity and for manhood, and for femininity and for women and mothers. But I just pray that you be with all of us, and let us understand that you are you set the example for masculinity, in the world today and in our culture, and how we have to love and lay down our lives for the other, and how that's true love, and how that is true goodness and true service for the world, for community, for friends, for family. And I just pray that for all people kind of wandering the world without father figures, for all those who haven't had like a rite of passage, that they understand that they are loved by you, and that ultimately all of our hearts desire you more than anything else, and that this God-sized void can only be filled by you. I just pray for conviction, and for a longing for you, and for recognition for that, and that the fog in our gaze can be cleared and blown away, so that we can clearly see you and all the things that we're searching for. And just be with all of us in this coming week. Be with Zack and his move and this transition for him, and empower him and bless him in this new job and this this exciting things. Same with Joe. Be with Joe and all that he's got going on, and be with me and my family. And we love you, Lord. In His precious and holy name we pray.
Amen.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for listening. We look forward to continuing this conversation with you next week.
Peace out.